snipers are charged and ready,
but the soldiers aren't shooting steady.
Cause that pyro blew us apart.
Push the cart, push the cart, push the cart.
We don't show signs of going,
and the sentries ensure we're slowing.
The spy got shot through the heart.
Push the cart, push the cart, push the cart. When we finally leave the spawn, how I hate all the heavies I see.
They always seem to have
many more medics than me.
The team is busy conversing while the cart is still reversing
and heading back to the start.
Push the cart, push the cart, push the cart.
During December, the best time of year, families come together to celebrate during this festive cheer. Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas and the like, every year they're bound to come on time. For you, as players of Team Fortress 2, the year is ended with events you shouldn't miss. An Australian Christmas event with lights and gifts, better known today as Smissmas. The events are filled with hats, skins, and festive guns with lights, but usually not maps. They weren't expected. They weren't right. Holiday maps were reserved for Scream Fortress 2 months prior, but this time of year is spent mostly by the fire. But 2020 was a dreadful year, full of sickness, sadness, and grieving. And that meant Valve had to do what they could to top it off with a festive Smissmas season. The usual hats and skins, more than any one man could likely catch, and for the first time ever, maps were added in the patch. However, this isn't the job for this narrator alone, so let's focus on this guy, at best, an amateur pro. A YouTuber with hope and a catalog of videos talking about the topic at hand, so perhaps he's up to the task of talking about one specific map. So let's have him ask the same question he could, almost every single week. I've been your narrator, and this is...
How bad could it be? If you like what we do here, please consider subscribing. It would really help a lot, and it costs absolutely nothing. So, on to the video. On December 3rd, 2020, down in Bellevue, they say, somehow, someway, Valve's wallet grew 3 sizes that day. 4 maps were added, and they were overall good, but in the group, one black sheep stood. A map considered so bad, so crude, so out of place that it just left people confused. To be fair, many people may have just jumped to conclusions, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't just a little befuddled with its inclusion. Made by a man only known as 13, there are quite a few problems that you may not initially see. Sure, there are plenty of graphical outstandings to be sure, but on a technical side, there's definitely a whole lot more. Starting with performance, let's look at how it was made. It may be a bit ass-backwards if I had to give my say. 13 definitely has an eye for design and detail, but when working in Hammer, what is all of this? Brushes and scale? I get it, Hammer's not an easy tool to use, and when making anything like this, it can leave you confused. How do you make a building like this in a program whose issues can make a large list? Inversions, corruption, and memory leaks during design, these issues will reach a peak. That's just considering standard square buildings. Imagine all of that with those buildings twisting. When learning something new, it can be hard to adapt, so the mapper fell back on what he was good at. A modeler he was, a trade tried and true, so make all the buildings models is what he would do. Unfortunately, this provides at least one small hitch. For lower machines, a visible performance hit. To be fair, this map wasn't his first rodeo, it's true, and the reason he used models may be more owed to Seuss. The design of the town, based off illustrations of his works, are oddly shaped with artistic quirks. Hammers, brushes, and tools aren't easy to use when making abnormal shapes, so to make it all work, maybe models, perhaps, were one of the only ways. The map is a majority of models loaded, as it was his forte, but it makes it all bloated. The sightlines are huge, snipers rejoice, but that also means that Source really has no choice. It keeps props loaded, considers the area bare, and this makes smooth performance quite rare. On the topic of sightlines, again, they are huge, far greater than they have any business to. Sniper is a must-have for either team to counter the one on the other side with the enemy. Map design calls for closed-off spaces, so this class can't easily headshot faces. But on this map, no matter where you stand, hope you can see him because saw you he already has. The majority of the map is visible at any given time, and you can nearly always see right to the other side. Sure, Sniper performs well in this environment, but that doesn't mean that he's alone in this event. Soldiers and demos also fire off explosives quite well, but the more that they travel, the more that their damage will have fell. Other hit scan classes may not seem all that prominent, but be caught off guard, you'll be dead in a moment. Though they are succumbed to bullet spread, that doesn't mean a scout or heavy can't also see red. This makes the map frequently a chaotic mess when there could and should be so much less. Had the map followed typical design standards, there would be more walls with sections and courtyards. 2 Fort may not be my favorite, but at the very least it's somewhat coherent. You can't see into the base from battlements or the ground floor, and you have to go inside to see more and explore. While the spawn room suffers similar fates, being able to see people spawn and kill out the gates, the secondary spawn on 2 Fort has just a turn, and in Wutville, the same. You could easily be burned by all the projectiles, hit scans, and particles being thrown out into these small tunnels. Typically, map design calls for spawns with multiple exits so that no one team could easily camp it. This is done to keep camping scarce, but here there just seems to be very little care. Most of the spawns were obviously cut and paste, with the exception of one which just seems out of place. With this large trippy tunnel with no use, pardon my words, but it looks like refuse. The map is based around a comic book character, a grumpy old Scrooge, old Nicholas Crowder. Not the one that you're thinking of, Santa Claus. This one's a gangly old man who kidnaps for his cause. Naughty children are taken to make toys in bulk, to open for himself and sell dupes for cash in his vault. It's an okay idea, I suppose, but in some of the areas the idea is opposed. The textures clash from the custom to stock, and ultimately it just all looks kind of odd. I thought it important to bring up before the section splits because this map here is where the toys get built. That means that outside it's rife with designs inspired by the Who's and the Seuss, while the insides are basic, factorially based and crude. While Australian Christmas is one of the more memorable comics, these areas are just a little off-putting and nearly off-topic. Gravelly concrete, machines and gears, and most of it just doesn't fit, I fear. While the concept itself isn't terribly awful, the design just clashes with most of it all. While I understand that it fits with the story, it just doesn't come off in any kind of glory. As far as design goes, I believe that's all I can say, and I do have a few more points that I'd like to cover today. I have attempted to contact 13 about the map in question, but it seems like he wasn't interested in any further discussion. I do believe that community backlash may have been a bit too harsh. The Steam Workshop is full of maps like this one, an uncurated marsh. It's all people just looking to contribute to a game that they love, and you shouldn't blame creators for what Valve chooses to shove. Yes, they made it, there is no denying, but the odds of it getting added are 1 in a million. I myself am guilty of making things first using my prior talent without trying to learn anything new to make it happen. People don't understand sometimes how hard it is to make a map, a thing that I've done myself, and it certainly can drive you mad. It's a hassle to create, playtest, revise, and re-release, and sometimes you just want to make it and get it on screens. There's nothing wrong with making something just for the hell of it, and really it should have been Valve to have that quality control present. As of writing, I've heard that 13's been hard at work making it better, so here's to hoping this year will bring justice to this Dr. Seuss love letter. Unfortunately, it also means my video may become quickly outdated, so, I'll see you later, Ed. I do sincerely hope that he gets the chance to make it all right. And with that, Merry Smissmas to all, and to all a good fight.